Video games, they're therapeutic.
Dude, why is it that when I flash somebody, it's like I just slapped them in the face with a fucking napkin?
They bring us together.
Get the fuck out of my room! I'm playing Minecraft!
And they're a scapegoat for parents that don't actually want a parent. This is Bear with some breaking news. Kids are killing each other because of video games. If you are beating your child, that is perfectly okay, and it won't cause any damages. However, if they are playing GTA 5, that is bad. Oh, we're getting breaking news, I'm hearing. It hit the second what? But one of the many great things about video games is the horrifying creations and characters that come from it. And today, ladies and gentlemen, and everyone watching, that is what we will be discussing, as we look at the scariest video game characters. Now, before we fully jump in, if you're new here, welcome, and if you're returning, it's good to see you again. If you're new here, hopefully by the end of this video, I'll earn your subscription, and if I don't, then I'm just going to steal your pet and hold it for ransom until you do. Alright, that's enough yapping for the intro, let's get into it. Kirby. Kirby may look cute, but he is a cannibal. Don't let this pink marshmallow lie to you. And on top of that, it has a politician smile. You can never trust those. Obviously, this is a joke because I'm not afraid of anything. Anything. You know, matter of fact, this video is over. Outlast. Chris Walker. Outlast is a first-person survival horror game. And the game follows journalist Miles Upshur, aka your character, as he decides to investigate a spooky dooky asylum. And as the case with most asylums, it's haunted. The patients in the game are called variants. And your character Miles gets caught by one of them and gets knocked up.
Little pig.
And when you wake up from the involuntary nap, that is when the true gameplay and horror begin, as you have to find your way out of the asylum that's full of terrifying antagonists. And to all of you who choose to fight in the fight or flight moment, which I love to fight babies, toddlers, politicians, in that order. Well, that sucks for you and me because you can't fight in this game. You can just run like a coward.
Coward.
So what makes the gameplay so intriguing is you have to just survive without being able to fight back, via outmaneuvering the bad guys or just finding different areas that they can't get to. Or you could just be like me and constantly run and you won't get far doing that. Not everyone has amazing stamina like me. Another thing about the Outlast games that make it so notable are the villains. All throughout the series, we get introduced to amazingly designed and interesting variants. However, I'm going to focus on mainly the first game because that's the one I played most, and specifically a fella named Chris Walker. Most of the villains you face in Outlast are mutated to some degree. It gives them a little bit of charm, you know? And it's almost like they've been experimented on. And ding ding ding, the reason for that is because they have. I bet that was hard to figure out. And I'm not saying like a lobotomy, like a certain Kennedy family member. And then the dad just hid her away and then acted like it never happened. Because lobotomies were actually bad. Whoa! Shocker! You know, these experiments left the patients, variants, disfigured to the point of horrifying. And the reason Chris Walker is my first choice is not only because of his absolute unit of a being, but because of his face.
You're beautiful!
Specifically when you're using night vision with the camera. His face glows, and most of the villains do, but the way Chris Walker's face glows with his eyes just beating out at you, and his mouth just looking like it's agape, it is truly horrifying to me. And watching that down a hallway just walk closer and closer to you, and this guy's fast. He's a bit faster than Michael Myers, but he's still got the same shtick going on. It's absolutely horrifying, and whenever I see night vision in movies, I just think of Outlast. Now let's go back to his brute of a size. Look, I'm a little old guy, and I'm scared of bigger guys, but that 45 ain't.
I'm plotting up a homicide when I'm out to ride. I'm gripping on my 45.
But because Chris Walker is so big, you hear his thumping footsteps. And this is going to be a reoccurring thing in video games because just hearing something coming at you always terrifies me. It terrifies me in movies too. But it sucks because his sound design with his footsteps, like I could be running like this and it could sound like he's right here. When in reality, he's all the way back here. I'm gonna get you, big boy. So no matter what, when you hear those footsteps, you are in a constant panic because you think he's gonna get your ass, and not in the fun way. Now back to his face, because I'm just looking at it while recording. One thing it reminds me of, and this might be a jump scare, so if you don't like the Russian sleep experiment, specifically the photo that goes with it, just skip to the next character. Chris Walker's face reminds me so much of the picture that is famously put hand in hand with the Russian sleep experiment story. And when he randomly pops up, that image also just pops up in my head, and I had to pause the game. You know, just to take a little breather, because I am a little bitch, but your mom likes it. That's right, your mom jokes in the big old 2025. The terrifying look and the terrifying presence isn't the only thing that makes Chris Walker absolutely disgusting to look at and just be around. Kinda like Scoutmaster Tom. And that's some creepy ass dialogue. Not Scoutmaster Tom. He definitely said some weird things. But I'm talking about Chris Walker.
I'm coming. You won't have to kill me. I'll make the vein stop.
Outlast is one of my favorite horror video games of all time. It's an older video game, 12 years old at this point, but if you haven't played it, I highly suggest it. It gives you such an anxious feeling that you're looking for in a first-person runaway to stay alive game. Plus it comes with some amazing lore. And this is just a heads up for most of these videos, I'm going to do like a plot synopsis, but I don't want to spoil these video games for you, because these video games are fun, and there's also a shit ton of lore, and if I went into lore for every single one of these videos, it'd be as long as the video as last week, and this week I'm purposely trying to make the video shorter so I can like do animations and just play video games. But anyway, Outlast 10 out of 10 game, would recommend. If you have any variants that you thought was scarier than Chris Walker, let me know in the comments below. Sonic's body is found in the river. It is suspected to be gang related, aka Sonic's drowning music. Okay, look, I know it's not a video game character, but one thing about scary video game characters that most of them will do is fill you up with anxiety. Now, imagine that, like a character, but without the character and it's just noise and it does the same thing. It's called sound. The Sonic game series follows Sonic, the blue hedgehog, as well as his friends as he tries to stop his foes from taking over friendly animals or the world. Sonic's main friends are Knuckles and Tails, and his main enemy is Dr. Eggman. But Sonic also has other enemies like, as you guys saw recently, Shadow, who they were enemies and they threw hands, but they're kind of like cool now, kind of. And same with Metal Sonic, who realized he wasn't a real boy. Sucks to suck, but hey, life's all about the tough lessons out there. Stiffen up that upper lip. Or stiffen up that upper robot face feature that's a lip. The first couple games released for Sonic is what I'm focused on, because I'm an OG. They are a second-person slide-scrolling game where you bop enemies on their head or other weak spots, and the story takes you to many differing settings, like underwater. Now, please take my word for it when I tell you hedgehogs cannot breathe underwater. They will drown. Don't ask questions, just accept it and leave a like. You see how I snuck that in there? I snuck it in so good that no one would even notice that I said leave a like, because that's a shitty plugin right there. So realistically, in the game, Sonic will drown. And you, 4-year-old self, who was only allowed to play Sonic the Hedgehog games because first-person shooter games were bad for children, which, that's fair, but you felt bad every time you killed the hedgehog, which was inevitable because you couldn't figure out how to get out of the water when you started hearing that music. And once you heard the music, your heart started racing and you started panicking. If I still remember this music from a little kid, that's some good trauma right there. Anyone else find this music horrifying, or am I just alone on this one? William Afton.
Wait a minute! Who are you?
William Afton is the main antagonist of the Five Nights at Freddy's series. Now, I said series because it has expanded into multiple different types of medias. It started off as a video game. However, there's a movie that recently came out, which I'm almost certain if you're watching this channel, you probably know about it. I personally liked it, but granted, I am a huge fan of the Five Nights at Freddy's lore because I think it's cool. Call me a nerd and I'm gonna punch you.
You fucking nerd!
And I'll punch you in the face, dude. Don't mess with me. William Afton's alias is the Purple Guy, mainly because he's seen in the second game as a purple guy. Now, full transparency, I'm going to try to explain William Afton to you as best as I can. With that being said, the lore within Five Nights at Freddy's, the lore is extensive, and it didn't really start to come out until like the second, the third, the fourth, and even then, it didn't come out until like books and things like that. I highly suggest Wendigo's breakdown of the Five Nights at Freddy's lore, and just to prove my point on how extensive the Five Nights at Freddy's lore is, this is how long the video is. Yeah. Over an hour. So I'm going to try to do my best with just a couple of minutes. Okay? Okay. The first Five Nights at Freddy's game came out in 2014 and follows a security guard that has to watch over a pizzeria. And through the game, we find out that animatronics come to life, and you have to fend them off through a matter of simple controls using the monitors and security system. First game didn't mention William Afton at all, I think. However, we do learn that he was there. At least Springtrap version of him was there. I don't know if I mentioned it, but William Afton, Purple Guy, Springtrap, all the same. But again, we didn't start knowing the Purple Guy until the second game when we saw him in the mini game, and then people were like, who the hell is that? Now, William Afton's name didn't come out until years after a couple of the games came out. It came out in the Silver Eyes. Now, this might sound confusing, and that's just kind of to point out that the information and lore given for this universe was spread out in a weird way. The information that comes out in like 2017 will be about something that happened in the game that came out in 2014. However, if you go look in the game in 2014, some things might not add up. It's a lot of weird continuity, but at the same time, if you're okay with kind of turning your mind off and just kind of going with the flow that this is a weird pizzeria, bad animatronics, and I will slowly explain to you that William Afton is a horrible person.
I'm going to be brutally honest with you here, Mike. Given your track record, your options are going to be extremely limited.
And a great villain. He was the co-founder of Freddy Fazbear Entertainment, and he supplied the animatronics. That's important. But what's not important is he murdered a couple of kids. Did I say a couple? I meant like a lot. He murdered a lot. Don't go there for your birthday party. Unless you don't like your kid, then, hasta la vista.
Hasta la vista, baby.
Now, with all these murdered victims, you have to put the bodies somewhere. I mean, the parents are going to start questioning. Unless you put them in an animatronic. Missing kid? Oh well. Just put their face on some milk and call it a day. Now, these bodies inside the animatronics, well, specifically the souls, or the ex-souls, well, their souls are... They possess the animatronics. Freddy, Chica, and Bonnie. And all the other cast of characters, they usually come out all throughout the night to harass a security guard or whoever you're playing as. All children trapped inside of animatronics. Some of the other characters are different characters, not children, but again, that's more lore. Now, these resurrections / possessions of the animatronics is actually what led to William Afton's downfall, kind of. It was that plus Afton's straight bloodlust. I mean, he even went after his co-founder's kid, his daughter. And he was so sadistic that he was more than willing to end himself, which is when he's almost defeated, he puts on the Springtrap animatronic. Granted, he was kind of forced to, but he knew what the consequences was. Now, what these animatronics do is that there's mechanics inside that spring metal and the said mechanics into your body and pierce skin, bones, and it's not a fun time. Do you remember that Venus flytrap scene from Saw?
Hello, Michael.
Imagine that, but with your whole body. But you're in a pink fluffy suit. Yeah, William Afton does that on purpose, and he knows he's gonna get possessed later. And guess what he does when he comes back from, like, the dead? Starts killing people again. This guy's so full of spite, and I have to admire it. He's a lot like the Reverse Flash, where he's just like, I'm gonna mess with you, Barry, at all times. I get those vibes from William Afton, especially in the movie when he's portrayed by Matthew Lillard. I just love this straight up hate that this character has, especially towards just kids. What the kids do to you? Slender Man, a classic one, and definitely a terrifying video game character. Just don't pause and look at him with good eyes or anything.
I'm carrying your love with me.
Slender Man's appearance is a tall, slender man wearing a tuxedo with either a white mask or just white face, features, and hands. And in some depiction, he gets little tentacles. A character that originates from a creepypasta created in 2009 by Eric Knudsen. The character of Slender Man has reached insane amounts of popularity. Some good, some not good. You might know what I'm talking about. The Slender Man movie. No, I'm talking about the Slender Man stabbing case, in which two degenerate fucks lured one of their best friends into the woods to stab her 19 times just to appease a fake fictional character that someone wrote on the internet. Now, the 2 girls who did the stabbing, they went to jail, and the 1 girl who got stabbed, she survived. This happened in 2014 to Peyton Luttner, and luckily the community, not only hers but also the creepypasta community, rallied around behind her and helped pay for her medical bills. Now, with this notoriety and all this fame, like, it got to like the news story levels. Do you know how weird it is for a creepypasta to get to the news? Or like even today, like internet viral things, it's kind of hard for it to go to the news unless it's just something stupid or just rage baity for like older generations to be like, the dumb kids these days. Yeah.
The viral videos like this one show a coin being dropped between the prongs of a phone charger that is loosely connected to an outlet.
The penny challenge has been attributed to starting several fires, including one at a high school near Boston.
Shut up, you guys. You guys drank water out of lead pipes. Also, you guys were trading nuclear weapons like they were Pokemon cards. Why are we I'm getting off track. Me talking about Slenderman's rage in media, that's all to say that eventually Slenderman would meet video games. And I'm almost certain that there were like a ton of indie Slenderman games out there. Because I remember playing just a lot that weren't the ones I'm going to be talking about. But they probably got like copyright striked, or they just didn't sell that well. But the Slenderman I'm talking about is from Slenderman: The 8 Pages. Now this is the classic Slenderman game. In this first person game, where you explore a forest, you have to find some pages. Can you guess how many pages? In this forest, all you have to aid yourself is a flashlight and your legs. And you need to use those 2 things to avoid the Slenderman. You know the Slenderman's coming when... And if you don't look away, then this happens. Now, as I mentioned earlier, is he scary? I don't know. He kind of looks like a dapper gentleman. I'd probably invite him over for some tea and cookies. I don't drink tea. I just lied to you guys, I'm sorry. Okay, I get it. He's not scary. But the ambiance and just the sound design, which is, like, looking back on it, it's pretty cheap. And a messed up screen, which helps us, the audience, not look at Slenderman's design and realize, oh, it's not that scary. Those things all combined terrified me when I was younger. And I think it helped me for my love in these type of games where it's first person, and all you do is walk around and try to achieve objectives without ever, like, you know, throwing a haymaker. This is mainly an homage for a creepypasta that actually made it onto a different media platform while not sucking. And the Slenderman: The New Arrival is actually pretty fun too. It's not the scariest again, and I don't think Slenderman itself is scary, but my love for creepypastas, especially like an OG creepypasta like the Slenderman, being translated semi-well to a video game, especially for back in that time, 10 out of 10. And most of my friends in my age range, so like the 70s, most of us remember playing Slenderman: The 8 Pages, one way or another, whether it be through our iPods or our computers. Dying Light, The Volatiles. The Dying Light game series follows 2 different characters. I say game series, it's just 2 games. Now, each of these characters are extremely skilled with parkour. And they use that skill to try to survive a quarantine zone. This quarantine zone is filled with infected, aka zombies. These first-person horror shooter games were released 7 years apart and follow different storylines. The first follows an undercover agent, Kyle Crane, as he infiltrates a quarantine zone for sensitive information. But once you get there, you fall into the world of the undead. And that includes the way that the living people react to the undead, which means like factions and settlements and stuff. Meanwhile, Dying Light 2 follows Aiden. 22 years after the first game's plot, Aiden is a simple traveler who delivers goods to different settlements. Again, in a quarantine zone. No shit, it'd be kind of boring to play a video game where all you do is deliver stuff and you walk and there's nothing that happens. I can't think of a game that's like that. In each game, most of the mechanics are the same and most of the gameplay is the same. Obviously there's some big differences, but I'm talking about like the base things. Like in Sunlight, zombies are weaker, they're not as angry, and they won't attack you as aggressively. They won't be as hangry. But at night, you better run. The stories each are captivating. However, for me, I mainly enjoy just running around, whacking zombies, and trying to run away from them with my amazing parkour skills that I definitely have in real life, because I'm a parkour master. The open world zombie game is so much fun because it's full of zombies. It's not like DayZ, where you wait for like hours just to find some zombies and all of a sudden you find a horde, or you just starve to death because you can't find anything. So much fun. But the parkour being a huge part in Dying Light makes you feel pretty tough. Because if you ever get into a pickle and beating these guys up or shooting them isn't enough, you can just run away. And most of the zombies won't follow you all the way. Most. However, the Volatiles are bigger.
Stronger. I'm smarter. I'm better.
I beat my meat into a cup.
What?
Version of the normal infected. Volatiles only come out at night. And they remind me a lot of the Reapers from Blade 2, with their mouths just going like, rah. These guys are the big boys when it comes to the game. Well, not the actual big boys, those are the bombers. But what I'm saying is you don't want to come up against a Volatile, because your best option is probably just trying to find sunlight, or running away until sunlight happens, or just a UV light and pray that you'll be good with that. And that's a risk. They are killable, but it takes a lot of work. And when I was first playing this, I realized I could just out-parkour and out-maneuver any of the zombies, so I was just doing that the whole time, and I knew the game got harder at night, but I was like, I'm fine. I'm a big boy. I can take it. Well, I can wait. So imagine my shock when I realized, oh, I'm getting overrun, and that guy looks pretty angry, and he just jumped at me. So let me just start jumping on roofs and stuff and try to get away from that. And then I jumped on the roof, and then I turn around.
Watch out, watch out, watch out, watch out!
Usually, when I'm up on the roof, I can just take a minute and look at all my zombie pals I've collected. This one, well, I'll tell you what, they were moving much faster than I'd like. The design of the Volatiles is noticeable compared to the other normal infected, because these guys are built machines. They're just units of men. Well, X-Men and women. R.I.P. But I do my best to murder you again. Unless you weren't murdered the first time and just died of natural causes. Then I'm murdering you for the first time, but not really. In the game Dying Light, you have the ability to camouflage. If you've ever seen Walking Dead, it's like that. Again, imagine my fun shock when I didn't realize that, like, oh, these volatiles can evolve and go into an alpha volatile. Now, you want to know what they can do? Well, if you're like dressed up in zombie guts and all the other normal zombies are like, oh, that's just a normal zombie. Well, guess what the alpha volatile is doing? Yeah, so if you see a volatile, it's bad news bears, no matter what, pretty much. And that's what makes them so scary to me. Because all throughout this game, and actually in a lot of zombie games like this, you as the player feel pretty good and confident about your skills. However, if you throw a curveball in there that will mess up your day, no matter how good you are as a player, well, that's a bit terrifying. Now, in most modes, it will show you where the volatiles are on the mini-maps. However, if you play on Nightmare mode, you're just winging that. Have you ever wondered what an unstoppable force would do to a puppy? Well, you and me are the puppies, and the volatiles are the unstoppable force. If you think a different variation of the infected should have made this list, let me know. But I think volatiles are pretty scary, because I don't like when dead people are more athletic than me. Silent Hill. A couple of fellas. The Silent Hill game series storylines, which would take a whole video for me to cohesively tell you it, but what I'll tell you is what you need to know. It's a third-person psychological horror game series that focuses on your character, which varies from which game you play. But they're usually located in a haunted town known as Silent Hill. Some of the other games stray away from it, but not too far. It stays in the same premise, pretty much. Within the games holds some awesomely horrific monsters and creations. And we'll get into the creations in a second, but one thing that the Silent Hill games does, better than any other horror games I've ever played, is creating a sense of psychological horror where you feel calm, but you also feel panicked. For example, Outlast. You feel like you're on your toes the entire time, because in first-person mode, if you turn around, something could be behind you. With the third-person camera, it's kind of helpful because while something can still sneak up on you, it's easier to see and you'll be more ready and prepared. Which means they can't just focus on jump scares and loud noises. And the direction they went, besides like brutal design work, is to make everything like a dream. Now, I don't know if you guys have ever dreamed about being in a town, but I have, and I'm going to explain it to you real quick. A town in a dreamlike scenario is a lot like the Backrooms, where it seems like it's a normal town, but something's off, to the point where you can obviously tell what's wrong, but you don't know what to do about it. And with Silent Hill, it forces you just to carry on. Granted, you do get weapons, which I really appreciate. Now, I hope I described the ambiance well for you. It's just a nightmare-like scenario. And what helps with those nightmares are the creatures within the game series. For example, the twin victim, who appears in Silent Hill 4, The Room. and they're much more of a passive enemy than other enemies. Like, they don't want to bother you unless you get too close or unless you provoke them, like hitting them or shooting them, which I feel like is a fair reaction. Who likes getting shot? Not me. However, you do have to encounter them because you have to like walk past them in a small hallway. So you're going to have to deal with them one way or another. Just make sure you stomp their head in, because that's ethical. Twin victims are victims of Walter Sullivan, who is the fourth game's main antagonist. The ex-toddlers turn into conjoined twins with huge arms as legs that they use to waddle around. And something creepy about these enemies compared to the other enemies in the game, and I'm talking more like the side enemies, not the big boys, is that these guys say stuff. They say receiver of while pointing at your character in a raspy ass voice. The twin victim story is truly sad. Now I don't want to dive too far into spoiler territory, but a lot of characters in the game have some sort of symbolism to some extent. And for the twin victims, I believe their creation represents all of the dead children that were murdered in the orphanage. If that doesn't sell you for this game, I don't know what will. Now jumping to the most famous monster from the Silent Hill game, and one of the most famous horror characters of all time, Pyramid Head. Sir, what are you doing? Pyramid Head, debuting in Silent Hill 2, is the manifestation of your character, James Sunderland, of his guilt and need to be punished for his past actions. And his attire represents the town's past and how it's just full of executions and love. Now, I don't know about you, but Pyramid Head, like the name, and then also just putting like a pyramid on your head, not the scariest sounding idea. Yet the design by Masahiro Ito made such an appalling character in a fantastic way. And I think it's even more impressive because we never hear him talk. And while he is a bad guy, he's not like, oh, I was about to say he's not really a bad guy. He's definitely a bad guy. But throughout the game, you understand that this character is a lot more than what he seems. And what he seems is just a giant murderer who's gonna murder. Again, I don't want to spoil this game for you guys, especially because Silent Hill 2, the remake, is out on PlayStation 5, Xbox One, and just like the newer gen consoles. I highly suggest this game particularly if you've never played any of the Silent Hill games before. Not only is it new, so like graphics you guys are going to be happy with, unless you're okay with the older graphics, then if you have the means, I'd recommend the original Silent Hill 2. But back to the remake. It's a self-contained story that stays true to the source material, while also giving you the full experience of a Silent Hill game. Now, if you think there's a more terrifying character in the Silent Hill game series, let me know. I personally say I was more afraid of the twin victims compared to the Pyramid Head, mainly because I thought Pyramid Head was cool as hell. And that's where we're going to end the video today. If you liked the video at any point, leaving a like really helps out the channel, and I just appreciate it. So thank you. And if you don't want to leave a like, that's fine. I just hope your bread goes stale. If you like this face, and then the yapping that comes out of it, and then the content that I create with my fingers on my keyboard, with my editing, if you like this content, hit subscribe. I upload every week, usually in the horror realm, and we all just like to come here and have a little fun party and jazz together. If you need more convincing, I have a lot of other videos too, so if you just want to binge something for a while because you don't want to do anything today, perfectly understandable. I'm just talking now. Alright, I'll see you guys next week. Bye.
I'm a goddamn onion.
Oh, hello!